Hi, everyone. Chief Rankings Officer Payton Soicher here on the Triple Option with Paul Catalina. We got our final regular season rankings released from the playoff committee, but things were shaky, right? We all had all of our big suspicions on where South Carolina would be, where would Alabama be, where would Miami be, all these different types of questions. But now we need to shift our focus and we need to look and see in different context scenarios what would happen if different college football championships were to flip. If we see a Boise State lose, if we see a Miami lose, what are we going to see in these different scenarios? So let me go ahead and reset all of the simulations and go look at where currently, according to rankingsrightnow.com, which is a machine learning algorithm that predicts where the college football playoff committee is going to be ranking each team. It's free for everyone. Create a login for anyone who wants to play around with this what if simulation tool like I'm about to. But here are the projected movements of the rankings that we see. In this context scenario, it looks like all the way down to 12 is where the playoff committee is going to be. There's no group of 5 with Boise State still being in there. But as of right now, we have these different games ending up being the winners of each conference championship. We have Oregon over Penn State, Texas over Georgia, SMU over Clemson, Boise State over UNLV, Arizona State over Iowa State, and Tulane over Army. Those are the big conference championship games that we need to keep into account. All right. Now, with that being said, there is a particular conference championship that is going to make things uber complicated, and that is the ACC championship game. Clemson is in the ACC championship game because Miami lost to Syracuse last weekend. So we have SMU and Clemson. SMU with the projected winner. Clemson sitting currently at number 17, projected to drop down to number 21 after a loss to SMU. But what if we change that outcome? Let's say it's a close one. Let's say Clemson 30, SMU 29. If we run the rankings right now simulation tool to see what the rankings would be in this situation, things get very complicated. We have SMU dropping down to number 13 in the rankings after that kind of loss. Now, let's just say this is a predictive algorithm. We can move things around a little bit. We're trying to just get a little bit of insights into what the selection committee might do. Let's say they decide to keep SMU above Miami because Miami did not play in this championship game. SMU does play in the championship game. We're not going to punish them more than a team that has not played this weekend. So let's say SMU sits at number 12 in this scenario. However, Clemson is only predicted to move up 2 spots to number 15 with a win against SMU, right? This is on historical data of what has typically happened when these types of games have occurred. If you have Clemson that close to SMU and Miami, and they just won the conference championship, are you going to put them in the top 12? Are they still out? Or do you keep an SMU team over a Clemson team after Clemson just lost to South Carolina, after Clemson has had a couple of ups and downs, right? A loss to Louisville, right? Where we all thought they were dead in the water. SMU has only lost 1 game this year, and that was to BYU early in the season. They're on a meaningful winning streak. Do you keep them in the college football playoff after you just proved that, or after it was just proven that Clemson was going to overtake SMU? So this ACC final selection spot, and they're only going to get 1, right? There's no Arizona State winning. They're going to the playoff committee. You can only assume is going to want a Big 12 champion and a ACC champion, and maybe not even a champion, but they want at least 1 team from each of those conferences to be represented, since it's just nothing but Big 10 and SEC schools at the current moment. They're going to want a little bit of range for all of the college football fandom to be invested in this game. So that's the big question now. Do you keep Clemson if they win this game? Do you keep SMU if they lose the game? What do you do with Miami? Is there any chance that Miami could sneak in because you're not going to keep a SMU and a Clemson, because both of them down the road have proven that they lost their last game of the year, even though Miami lost their last game of the year too. So Clemson has their chance now to really try and make a enormous migraine for the playoff committee on how they're going to handle the final 12th ranked spot. Because at the current moment, it looks like it's going to go to an ACC team, but which one is it going to be? Stick around. We're going to talk about it all week on the triple option with Paul Catalina on 365 Sports. There's so much to discuss. We only talked about this scenario. What happens if Oregon loses to Penn State? What happens if Boise State loses to UNLV? We're in a similar scenario. So much to talk about. All college football, all the time on the triple option with Paul Catalina. I am Chief Rankings Officer Payton Soicher for rankingsrightnow.com.